have nowhere else to blame
Yeah.
but inward. And I think a lot of jumping ship is happening. I'm sure you saw stats. Republicans are growing the most in registration in California.
Yeah. Young men are leaning conservative.
That's a huge, and that's another thing that the
That gives
TikTok,
me hope.
yeah, the TikTok generation is starting. There's those who are being absolutely bombarded with propaganda all day, every day. Ironically, from TikTok, Chinese-owned, kind of surveillance program. All of that is starting to have a natural pushback, and that's what you're saying. These new generations of kids are like, they're a little raw. They're like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, no. And sometimes they're mean.
They're the ones fighting the system now.
They're yeah, and that now it's like Gen Z push to implement the system. Millennials, we introduced it. Gen Z pushed to implement it. Now Gen Gen Alpha is sort of like counterculture to that, which I think as millennials that are disenfranchised, and even the Gen Xers who trust me, are disenfranchised, I think we embrace that. I think that's where and that's what gives me excitement to reach out to those younger generations coming up, is because that frustration can be honed in a very productive way at a time where it's most like it's what's the word?
We're in need of it right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
this is the
timing.
best time to jump in an arena that is lacking a lot of that perspective, that fight.
Yeah. And, I always mention this story because, me on my journey, like I said, I have my career, I have all my responsibilities. I wanted to build something that, from the ground up, that I could be proud of, that helps other people, that's noble. Jordan Peterson always talks about the more noble your goal, the more fulfillment you get out of it.
Oh, 100%.
So I can start to point myself in the right direction there, right? So, hey, I like talking to people, I like learning and all this stuff. I like soccer, I like tattoos, right? Like, why don't I do a podcast about that? Well, it's not as noble as success psychology, philosophy, wisdom, helping people get their shit together, right? So that's why I tweaked my podcast to be in that realm. And another, selfishly speaking, I also think that right now there's a massive demand for it, right?
There's
Because
a
I
market.
think people, exactly, there's a market. And I, studied econ, and that was my bachelor's, right? I'm no expert, but I studied enough
can
of it,
still
right?
see it, yeah.
There's a massive demand for it right now. I think that there's, as Vivek always says, a spiritual hole that people are looking to fill. And you can either fill it with social justice Marxism, which about half the country is, or you can fill it with,
Intrinsic values.
yeah,
and-
exactly. Like foundational values and, knowledge and, but let's get back to humanity here. Right. So, it's funny that you mentioned that because, like that's why I kind of tweaked my podcast to be in this focus. I think naturally that's how I ended up connecting with yourself and the San Diego Young Republicans. And to tie that back to, we were talking about media involvement and like, having a voice for ourselves, so that the left doesn't just say, "Oh, conservative means like you hate black people."
This is who you are, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And think about it. In the past 2.5 weeks, San Diego Young Republicans has now done 3 podcasts, this being the 3rd.
Yeah.
So you're not, and I challenge people, go through all of my content, every second of a word that I've said and I've posted. I've never said anything racist. I've never said anything transphobic. My mother was an immigrant. I'm firm on strict immigration policy and processes and secure border. My mom was a fucking refugee. Like there, whoa, that breaks the mold for some people, right? So having that voice out there, for these young kids out there who are look at who's not afraid to defend what they're saying, right?
Dispelling those myths. And that's the part I have a huge passion about that because I embody a lot of it because there's the stereotypes, white, straight, male.
Yeah.
That's about all you're going to get accurate, right? Because my journey is very complicated and it's also seasoned in many ways. I've gone through many trenches and things, but you're not going to get that if you just snap judging. And just to speak on, you're coming on to the scene in a time where we did, San Diego had, and sorry to throw you under the bus, guys,